Oh, wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Chris, I apologize to you.
Will Smith did not step into Hollywood as a punchline or a risk. He stepped in as a guarantee. For nearly 2 decades, his name on a poster meant money, stability, and a massive opening weekend. Studios were not gambling when they hired him, they were locking in profit. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, he had become one of the most reliable box office forces the industry had ever seen, commanding salaries north of $30 million per film without hesitation. Executives trusted him. Audiences trusted him. International markets embraced him. In an industry where fame can disappear overnight, Will Smith felt permanent. That dominance was not luck. It was strategy. Smith studied stardom like a professional athlete studies film. He analyzed timing, audience reactions, and patterns that made other actors untouchable. He avoided messy scandals, avoided profanity, avoided picking sides. He crafted himself to be universal. Kids loved him. Parents felt safe bringing the whole family to his movies. Overseas fans connected with his charm. Even when critics dismissed certain films, ticket sales barely flinched. Alien invasions, secret agencies, apocalyptic chaos. It did not matter what was exploding on screen because Will Smith's presence reassured audiences that everything would work out by the final act. Producers did not need awards. They needed box office numbers, and he delivered them with mechanical consistency. But beneath that confidence was something even more calculated. Smith was not just selling films, he was selling an image, the smiling hero, the loyal husband, the disciplined professional who stayed clean in a chaotic business. While other stars spiraled into controversy, he presented himself as controlled and grounded. That image became as valuable as his acting talent. By the mid-2000s, he was not just a celebrity, he was a brand built on likability, emotional intelligence, and total self-mastery. Audiences did not just watch his movies, they rooted for him as a person. The industry rewarded that loyalty, and Smith understood how rare that kind of goodwill really was. That is why, when the cracks finally appeared, it felt unreal. There were no arrests, no dramatic mugshots, no immediate tabloid meltdowns. The unraveling came quietly at first, then escalated, and then detonated live in front of millions watching around the world.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
My wife's name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
Jada, I love you, G.I. Jane 2. Can't wait to see it. All right, it's jealous. That was a nice one. Okay, I'm out here. Richard. Wow, Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me. My wife's name, out your wow, dude. In seconds, the polished image that took decades to build cracked on the biggest stage imaginable. To understand why that slap landed with such force culturally, you have to rewind to 2016. That year, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith boycotted the Academy Awards over the lack of diversity in nominations. The protest sparked serious conversation in Hollywood, but it also put them directly in the spotlight for criticism. That same night, host Chris Rock addressed the boycott from the stage. He framed it less as activism and more as frustration. The crowd laughed. Cameras captured reactions. Will did not publicly respond, but moments like that do not just fade away. Fast forward to March 27, 2022. Smith was hours away from winning his first Oscar after decades of chasing that validation. The atmosphere inside the theater was celebratory and loose, broadcast live across the globe. When Chris Rock walked on stage to present an award, he did what hosts are hired to do. He joked. One quick line about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head sparked laughter across the room, including from Will himself at first. Then the mood shifted instantly. Jada's reaction was visible. Will's laughter disappeared. He stood up, walked toward the stage, and struck Chris Rock across the face. The room froze. For a split second, people thought it might be staged. Then he returned to his seat and shouted for Rock to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. The audio cut. Social media erupted in real time. What should have been the crowning achievement of his career became one of the most shocking live television moments in modern history. Minutes later, he returned to the stage to accept his Oscar. He cried. He spoke about protection, about love, about pressure. He apologized broadly, but not directly to Chris Rock in that speech.
Why didn't you apologize to Chris in your acceptance speech? I was fogged out by that point. It's all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk. And when he is, he will reach out. So I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk.
Why didn't you apologize to Chris in your acceptance speech? I was fogged out by that point. It is all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk, and when he is, he will reach out. The Academy responded by banning Smith from attending the Oscars and related events for 10 years. For a man who spent his career chasing institutional respect, that exile hit hard. He resigned from the Academy, issued written apologies, then video apologies, carefully worded and visibly remorseful. But public opinion had already shifted. Behind the scenes, consequences multiplied. Film projects were paused. Others were quietly shelved. Studios reassessed risk. The man once viewed as the safest bet in Hollywood suddenly looked unpredictable. And in that industry, perception can outweigh talent overnight. Even longtime collaborators stepped back, not out of hostility, but caution. The contradiction at the center made everything worse. Will Smith built his career on emotional control and discipline. The slap was impulsive and global. For a brand rooted in composure, that loss of control was devastating. The Oscar he finally won no longer symbolized pure triumph. It became forever linked to controversy. Instead of marking the peak of his career, it marked the turning point. Every explanation sounded defensive. Every silence felt loaded. The Academy ban was the formal punishment. The deeper consequence was cultural respect slipping away in real time. And this tension did not begin in 2022. The foundation had already been shaking years earlier. When singer August Alsina publicly claimed he had a romantic relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith, headlines exploded. What intensified the story was his claim that Will Smith knew about it and had given his blessing. The relationship details were never fully verified publicly, but the pressure forced a response. That response came on Red Table Talk, where Will and Jada sat side by side and addressed the situation openly. Jada described a period of separation and referred to the relationship as an entanglement. Will pushed for clarity. She confirmed it had been romantic. The episode was presented as honesty and healing, but online reactions were brutal. Clips of Will's tight smiles and watery eyes spread instantly. Memes flooded timelines. Sympathy shifted into mockery. What unsettled many viewers was not just the relationship, but the visible imbalance. Jada appeared steady and composed. Will appeared exposed and uncomfortable. From that point forward, his carefully managed persona began to erode. The silence that once felt strong now felt uncertain. Each new public conversation about their marriage invited more scrutiny. The untouchable movie star started to look human in a way that felt unfamiliar to audiences who were used to polished perfection.
It's a situation that I consider private.
You just feel like it ain't really nobody's
business.
But now Black Twitter has claimed it as their business.
You and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided...
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically, we broke up.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, you know, I think from there, you know, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship, absolutely. The only person that could give permission in that particular circumstance is myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But what August was probably trying to communicate, because I could actually see how he would perceive it as permission because we were separated amicably.
Yeah.
And I think he also wanted to make it clear that he's not a homewrecker. I just wanted to feel good. It had been so long since I felt good. And it was really a joy to just help heal somebody. We ride together, we die together.
Bad marriage for life.
The slap did not create the cracks. It made them impossible to ignore. And once that armor shattered on live television, the world stopped seeing only the superstar. They saw a man under pressure, a brand under strain, and a legacy suddenly facing real questions. By the time Will Smith stepped onto the Oscar stage in 2022, it was not just about defending his wife. It was about defending an identity that had been slipping for years. Long before the world saw his hand connect with Chris Rock, the pressure had been building. The cracks were already there. The slap did not create the collapse. It exposed it in front of millions. And when people replay that moment, they are not just seeing anger. They are seeing years of strain finally spill over. Hey, come meet our family. The whole, put my jacket on. Okay, put my tie up. That image of the polished, picture-perfect household used to feel solid. Hollywood watched closely as Jaden Smith entered the spotlight almost effortlessly, first as his father's on-screen son, then carving his own lane. Early performances hinted at something big, something inevitable. But the momentum slowed. Film roles became rare, then nearly vanished. Jaden pivoted to music and high fashion, spaces where experimentation mattered more than mass approval. His public appearances grew sporadic and heavily analyzed. Fans debated his health, his mindset, his direction. What once felt like bold creativity started to look like drift. Then stories surfaced about Jaden wanting independence at a very young age. Not scandalous, but symbolic. It added to a growing feeling that the household behind the cameras was not as steady as it seemed. Willow Smith's journey followed a different path, but it carried its own weight. Thrust into global fame before reaching adolescence, she carried expectations that would overwhelm most adults. Years later, she spoke openly about periods of depression and self-harm, linking some of that pain to early exposure and pressure. Her honesty was courageous. It was real, but it also shifted the public narrative. The Smith family no longer looked like an untouchable dynasty. They looked human, vulnerable. Another example of what happens when fame arrives before insulation. Private struggles became public conversations before they could fully heal. And once again, Will Smith appeared not as the architect controlling outcomes, but as someone responding after damage had already taken place. None of this pointed to cruelty or neglect, but perception does not wait for nuance.
Hey, come meet our family.
The whole. Put my jacket on.
Okay.
Put my tie up.
Very nice shirt.
So Jaden, this is your first premiere. How you feeling tonight?
Mary.
Premiering.
Yeah.
I want to present the bestest brother in the whole entire world, Jaden Smith.
Put the clothes on, baby. Put the governor.
Hit another one. There you go. There you go. One more. Hit it one more time, baby. Hit it one more.
I thought I would be nervous, but I'm not nervous. Well, I'm sort of nervous because I thought I would be nervous because the lights were hitting my eyes. I thought that would hurt.
Pretty much the boss wherever she goes, which is why I named her Reign, R-E-I-G-N. So she gets it naturally. You know, her mom and her dad, you know, we can be some pretty bossy people.
As conversations stacked up about marriage, masculinity, parenting, and control, the myth of flawless leadership dissolved. The man who once seemed to steer every room he entered now appeared surrounded by outcomes he could not fully contain. When audiences looked at him after the slap, they did not just see a superstar from the early 2000s. They saw a father, a husband, a public figure absorbing blow after blow, each one chipping away at the authority that once made him untouchable. What would you say to the people who looked up to you before the slap, or people who expressed that you let them down? That question hung heavy. And instead of disappearing, Will Smith chose to stay visible. He tried something harder than hiding. He attempted reinvention in real time. The strategy was exposure, podcasts, interviews, speeches, long reflections about ego and accountability. He framed the Oscar incident as a painful awakening, a necessary reckoning. His language turned philosophical, almost spiritual, as if wisdom could rebalance public opinion. But the reaction was mixed. For many viewers, the constant presence felt too soon. Every appearance reopened the wound. What he presented as transparency sometimes felt rehearsed. The sincerity was debated, the timing criticized. In trying to explain himself, he struggled to match the public's exhaustion. Then came the pivot toward younger digital spaces. Smith began appearing alongside online creators and streamers, stepping into environments far removed from traditional Hollywood. Some moments were self-aware, others felt awkward. Instead of seeing a legend connecting across generations, many viewers saw a man chasing relevance in places where it could not be forced. The humor that once flowed naturally now felt measured. Every joke carried weight. Every smile seemed calculated. The effortless charisma that built his empire appeared replaced by nervous energy. Nothing existed in isolation anymore. Every appearance was filtered through that one night. What made the comeback attempt stumble was not effort, it was miscalculation. Smith seemed to treat reputation as something that could be explained back into place. But culture does not reset on command. Sometimes silence creates space for healing. Constant visibility can amplify discomfort, the industry noticed. So did fans. He was not fully rejected, but he was not fully embraced either. He existed in an uneasy middle ground, visible yet untethered, active yet uncertain. The more he tried to steer the story, the clearer it became that the narrative had slipped beyond his control. Then came music. Smith framed his return to hip-hop as confession, not nostalgia. He positioned the project as raw and personal, seeking advice from respected voices like Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar. The guidance was simple: stop performing the image, tell the truth. Smith leaned into that advice. The album confronted ego, shame, and the public fallout head-on. For the first time, he did not aim to be universally liked. He aimed to be understood, but the reception was harsh. Critics described the project as awkward and overly earnest. Instead of sounding reflective, many felt it sounded defensive. The vulnerability he hoped would humanize him was interpreted by some as another attempt to justify the past. Commercially, the response mirrored the reviews. The music struggled to gain momentum. Online reactions leaned towards sarcasm and memes. Listeners did not hear growth. They heard someone still circling the same moment. What was meant to be cathartic became another reminder of how far his public standing had shifted. He followed with more visuals, more performances, doubling down on color and energy. But the disconnect lingered. The tone felt out of sync with his age, his legacy, and the seriousness tied to his name. Instead of expanding his cultural space, he appeared smaller within it. Music once launched his career. Now it highlighted the limits of reinvention. The industry did not punish him for trying, but it did not reward him either. With each new release, the same question resurfaced. Was this growth? Or was it urgency dressed up as honesty? Yeah, that was a horrific night. The words sounded real, but reality does not erase memory. The truth is, his fall was not triggered by one single act. It was timing, accumulation. The slap did not destroy his career. It confirmed doubts that had been quietly building. The image of emotional mastery collapsed in one visible instant, exposing years of pressure underneath. Once that illusion broke, everything afterward was interpreted through it. Smith continues to work. Films still move forward. Projects still exist. But the automatic goodwill that once surrounded him is gone. He no longer benefits from the assumption that his intentions are pure or his instincts flawless. Now, he has to earn trust that once came freely. And yet, his story refuses a clean ending. Unlike many fallen stars, he did not retreat into silence. He stayed present. He faced criticism head-on. He allowed himself to be questioned, even mocked, rather than vanishing. That persistence complicates the narrative. Time can rebalance outrage and empathy, but legacy is shaped by moments. And Will Smith's defining moment is no longer tied to a blockbuster or an award. It is tied to a single impulsive act that reframed everything around it. Hollywood rarely admits this truth, but massive success does not protect you from collapse. Sometimes it accelerates it. When a persona built on perfection cracks, rebuilding requires patience, humility, and distance. And those are lessons Will Smith is still navigating in real time. So, after everything you have seen, do you think his downfall came from one irreversible moment, or from a slow unraveling of an image that was never as unshakable as it looked? If you made it this far, make sure to like, subscribe, share, drop your comments down below, and I will see you on the next one.